Well, Troy, it's a pleasure having you here. I mean, it's an honor.
Thank you for having me.
Troy, you're behind the success of Lady Gaga in terms of marketing, digital marketing, and social network. Which one do you think is the base for Gaga's success?
I think the base for her success is her talent. You know, no matter how good you are at marketing or social media or relating to fans, you know, I think the core of it is her actual talent, her songwriting abilities, and my job as a manager is just to help tell that story, you know, and help get the songs out to people, and to assist in making sure that the tools are in place for her to be able to communicate with the fans directly, and just being able to make it as easy for her as possible. But you know, I think what it boils down to, if the talent's not there, then you know the fans aren't there. So I attribute it all to her talent.
And we'll talk later on about the story that you have to tell. But you always talk about how important the investment on that talent is, and the talent is forefront all the time. Yeah. Can you go deeper in the difference between the marketing and the talent of the artist, and how do you really need that talent to work?
Yeah, well, what we like to look for, you know, just in general, you know, is I want to work with artists that inspire me, and you know, and artists that inspire the fans, and you know, if you have a less talented act or a less talented person, then you can have the best marketing machine in the world, you know, but you know, they aren't going to sell music, they aren't going to sell concert tickets, and they aren't really going to be able to make that connection. So you know, we just look at talent first, everything else is secondary and tertiary.
Okay. Is there any marketing tip that you would like to share that will keep any artist or any agency on top of the game all the time? What do you have to look for?
I think you just have to have that direct relationship and conversation with either your fans or consumers, you know, where there aren't any, you remove all intermediaries, and you know, and you talk in a very authentic voice. I think it has to be about that authenticity, you know, and whether it's, you know, and you know, I look at brands like in the United States, Dr. Pepper has done like a fantastic job just in terms of their social media and the conversation that they have with their audience. And I think they've developed a very unique voice, you know, a voice that, you know, that's smart, it's funny, it's a bit irreverent at times, but it connected to their audience. So, you know, so outside of consumers just going to the refrigerated section to, you know, to buy something that tastes good, I think they were also able to put just a bit of a connection in between the brand and the consumers online as well.
So there is a lot of emotion behind this. This is not just a rational thing, but also an emotional push.
Exactly. You know, I think I think it's all about emotion. You know, one of the things we're going to talk about tonight is just that emotional connection that between bands and their audiences, and how brands sometimes can piggyback that emotional connection. So it'll be a fun conversation.
I'm sure it will. So we have a connection, conversation, own voice. What are the no-nos in the business, mistakes you should never make?
I don't think you can. I think you have to know who you are as a brand and what you stand for, and you got to look at the integrity of your brand and who are you. Even down to, I think once you have a basic understanding of the DNA of your brand and what it means, it helps you pick distributors, it helps you pick, you know, third-party operators, it helps you pick the celebrities that come on board and endorse it, you know, and it helps you define your voice. So I think it's all, you know, digging down into the integrity of the brand.
Is this something that you knew from the start, or was there any advice along the way that helped you, Troy, to get to these conclusions and to do all you have done so far?
Well, I don't even think I have an ultimate conclusion yet, because I'm learning every day. Digital and technology is, it pushes forward every day. It's new technology every week, and I spend a lot of times with in Silicon Valley with incredibly smart founders. I spend a lot of time with artists, and and learning about art and learning about marketing from them. I probably learned more from my relationship with Gaga than I learned, through sitting down with Fortune 500 CEOs. So, so I think it's an ongoing education.
And this education involves a lot of uncertainty, chaos. It's a constant flux. This is something that you have talked a lot about it. Tell me how it translates into your work.
Well, I think you have to be comfortable with living in flux, and I think you have to be comfortable with also having the ability to call an audible, because you thought something was going to work one way, and all of a sudden you found out that it's going to work a lot different. So you got to be able to change plans quickly. So and having an agile organization, or if you have a large organization, being able to have agile units within that organization that are able to move quickly, I think that gives you a competitive advantage.
And we have talked about the digital media. What will happen with traditional media in this context that you are describing?
I think traditional media is changing a lot as we speak, whether it's mobile phones, whether it's tablets, smart televisions, and I think big advertisers are going to have to make adjustments, and they're going to have to try different things, whether it's experiential marketing, whether it's really figuring out how mobile is going to play into it, and how do you reach and connect audiences on small screens, or whether how do you build, one of the things that we're going to talk about tonight is this case study on what P. Diddy was able to do with Ciroc, and where they took away the traditional in-store advertising and the 30-second TV spot, and you create these experiences around the products. So I think a lot of that's going to come into play, but the 30-second spots on broadcast television, it's not like I'm even predicting it. We're seeing this shift now moving, to other mediums now.
But Troy, talking about the predictions, is key to being able to identify trends in the industry. Is there any secret of how you can really see the trend coming, or at least, right there, ready and ripe to take it?
I think you have to create what we have a small. Between myself and as a girl, Allison Struder at my company, that's our R&D department. Where we're spending a lot of time talking to people, and and finding out what's working for people, what's not working for people. We stay really close to the conversations that fans are having, and we ask a lot of questions. So being very curious and inquisitive about what's happening. So I think you got to almost have a curiosity department within your company that's going out and sitting down with people and asking a lot of questions. The music industry, we ended up being the canaries in the coal mine, and we got caught with our pants down. And it really, we watched technology disseminate a lot of value in the industry. And over the last 3 or 4 years, it's been really highly concentrate efforts of building that value back up. But with that lesson, we learned a valuable lesson. So instead of living in fear of change, it's embracing change and being part of change as well.
And do you think these changes have empowered the artist himself or herself in terms of the connection?
Absolutely. You now what we're seeing is we're learning how to remove third parties from that conversation. Prior to a few years ago, artists weren't able to really understand who the audience was. There was always someone in between the transaction. So if you ask the music industry who your customer was, they would say Best Buy, Walmart, Target, you know, big box retailers, or iTunes, opposed to saying, you know, it's John Stevens, who lives in Sweden, who listened to the music at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. This is the music that he listened to. This is where he purchased it from, or this is where he streamed it from, and really being able to get specific data about who that customer or who that fan is. And so I think over the next few years, we're really going to be we're going to see a lot of rich data mining around consumers.
Let's talk a little bit about social media. I would like you to polish your crystal ball and tell me which of these social medias that we have now, these outlets, will stay and why.
Well, I think, I guess the answer is I don't know. You know, because
that's the honest one.
Yeah, that's the honest answer, because you know it's no one could have predicted that Facebook was going to, you know, have the power that they have, or Twitter was going to be the platform that it became, and I would say my prediction is we're going to see these very niche verticals. And what we're doing right now, you know, with littlemonsters.com, for instance, this isn't about the quantity of users on the platform, where Gaga has close to 60 million users on Facebook and, you know, 31 million followers on Twitter. This is going to be about the quality of users. How can we leverage having 1 million diehard fans on a platform? So, you know, the people that come to this community are super fans. This isn't about the passive fans. But I think we're going to see these niche communities, not just the music, but around sporting teams, around any sort of affinities, whether it's religion, whether it's cars, whether it's pets. You know, I think we're going to see a lot of these niche communities popping up. So
somehow it's even a next step from social media in terms that you are into really specifics, no? I mean, the question I want to ask, if this social media that we see now, is it a trend, or it also is in flux and you see it changing?
No, I think it's going to, I think Facebook's become the telephone company, you know, so where they're just, you know, they're the electricity company, they're the pipes. So, you know, so for us, it was, you know, when we launched littlemonsters.com, we went and we sat down with Facebook first, you know, and we talked to them about it, and, you know, and it was important to us, and it also was important to them that we integrate the two platforms, so we're not sitting on an island. So our platform is also integrated into Twitter and into Facebook as well. So, you know, as you're updating on littlemonsters.com, you also have the possibility for it to be able to go throughout your social graph. But where your largest social graph has been about your relationships, you know, with your friends, your family, your schoolmates, you know, people from your past, and this is really about your specific interests. So where, as a basketball fan and a Los Angeles Lakers fan, you know, I'm not necessarily talking about that with people on Facebook, but if I can go into a rich community and specifically talk about the team, the trades that happened, last night's game, you know, complain about who sucked and everything else or whatever, you know, you find yourself spending a lot of time on those specific platforms.
So you're really building a community, of interest.
Yeah,
that's the idea, no?
Exactly.